We are continuing our series, a 10-part series entitled 10 Windows onto the Palace. Of course, the palace is the place of your higher soul, your connection to the divine presence. Endless metaphors exist in all religions for these ideas and concepts. Of course, we're not here just to learn ideas and concepts. We want to experience what the teaching is all about, and so there is much to be said about this. We're exploring week after week through this whole series different techniques, different directions or angles onto the palace, because every palace has many windows, and we are up into the 8th week, which is quite amazing. We're almost finished with the series, and tonight's subject or angle of investigation is called colors, the frequencies of the soul. Now, the frequencies of the soul is, of course, an allusion to a more scientific type of metaphor, the idea of the vibrations of energy that the universe abounds with. But the colors of the soul, we go back into our sources in the Kabbalah, we see there's quite a bit written about it. Rabbi Nachman teaches that the colors are representative of the forces of money. For example, gold corresponds to the color red. There's 5 types of gold in the Talmud tells us, and each with a different level of purity. And one is called red gold. So gold is definitely from the side of Gevurah. And we talk about kesef, another word for money, which is silver, of course, is corresponding to the shining intellect of what we call Chokhmah. So that's just one idea, but the Ramak, who was a holy rabbi in Tzfat before Rabbi Arizal got to Tzfat, and they knew each other at the very end of the Ramak's life when the Arizal came to Tzfat for this last 22 months of existence in a body, shall we say. I'm sure it went well past that. And the Arizal considered the Ramak his teacher. The Ramak was considered the master of the Kabbalah of the Sfirot, the powers of the soul. And the Arizal had come from 7 years of meditation on the Nile River to reveal what's called the Kabbalah of the Partsufim. The Partsufim is really the members of the divine family. So the first Kabbalah was about the form and the powers of each soul, and then how those powers get together into a family structure is what the Arizal renewed in the learning of Kabbalah, what we call the Partsufim. And it's really a lifetime endeavor. It's an endeavor that will never let you down, a teaching that will always reveal new things to you. And it takes a lot of patience and time. What we're trying to do is provide insights into these great disciplines and their teachers. The Ramak, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, he tells us that the whole point God created his sfirot, his powers in the soul, are to give man a psychic ladder. Now, the word psychic I threw in, because we don't want to think anything here is physical, but to create a psychic ladder for men, for women to climb, to reach the highest realms of heaven. Now, you notice I did not say to reach God. This is an immature spiritual position. Anybody who says they're going to reach God, they set out to reach God, ultimately they're going to fall, because you cannot reach God. God is in everything. What we try to do is elevate our body to its root in the divine form, in the structure. And that is plenty for anybody to achieve in their lifetime. But the idea of reaching God is an arrogant position spiritually for any human being to say such a thing. And you see what happens when people make this claim. You create all kinds of false religions and false theologies. And it's devastating to the people who are sincere. They want to know God. They want to know how to serve Hashem. They want to be spiritual, but they're given a set of tools that are actually, have some usefulness in the tools itself. Most religions have meditation. Most religions have a structure, a history, a theology. But when you get to the idea of, well, I want to reach God, then already you've broken the paradigm. You've destroyed the relationship between creator and created. And we have to remember who we are. We are created, right? And there's one creator. So he tells us these sphero, these powers in our soul are meant to be used as a ladder. Okay. So last week, and I believe the week before, we experienced some of this in trying to spell out God's names. And it really is a very deep, endless type of meditation. In other words, because as each person is on a different level of the discipline and the exercises themselves. So as a teacher of this, it's very difficult to be able to really address each of you where you're holding in your own meditation. So what I try to do is design meditations that anybody can do with the beginnings of the tools that we need. So of course, the beginning of every tool is that we spoke of before many times, is the opening of the third eye, the inner eye, what's called in Kabbalah, the Einei HaSechel, the eyes of the intellect. The eyes of the intellect are your inner theater. And many of you have had that opened already. Some people are born with it, and some people don't even know they have it and are not able to access it. And that is unfortunate, but that is part of the, so to speak, the type of soul that each person is giving. And it does not mean we don't learn. It doesn't mean we don't try or practice, but we have to learn to pray to God about these things. That if I want to see his name in my mind's eye and I can't, I need to pray for help. God, my mind is closed. My theater is locked. This COVID going around. I can't open up my brain. It's not a joke because what's going on, but to open up the mind and the eyes of the mind in order that we can project divine names. And tonight we're going to talk about projecting colors onto those names, because colors are vibrations in the physical world. They are not spiritual. Now you might say, well, wait a minute. When I look at a blue sunset, I get this beautiful feeling. That's true, you do. And it's for many reasons. It's not just because it's a blue sunset or the sky is orange at the end of the day, but rather these colors are merely conduits of energy frequency that's coming from a non-physical plane, which we call the upper soul, which has a complete span of the sphera. Okay, so I highly recommend that everybody have pen and paper nearby. I always do, because there's ideas that will come and go and we won't be able to remember them all. And I take notes myself, obviously. And tonight I'm going to try to give you some notes that will help give you a map of the colors as they correspond to the sphirot and, of course, the places in the soul. And why those colors affect us in different ways is a fascinating thing unto itself. Now, my wife is a very talented painter, and she uses oil and chalk, and she's very masterful when it comes to color. And people always comment first about her color and the colors that she uses in pictures. And you see how colors have impact on people. And it's not a simple impact of aesthetic appreciation, right? Because colors we're going to see correspond to different parts of us. And if one person is really into blue and one person is really into red, that's because they're different souls and their souls are rooted in different places. Okay, we're going to get on to that. One thing that, again, I mentioned before about the vowel points, we're going to learn more about the vowel points as we go, perhaps in the coming weeks. But the vowel points are also frequencies or vibrations, just like colors. Colors are visual frequencies, and vowel points, of course, represent sounds, which are audio frequencies. But they both represent the vibration of electrons and the whole atomic structure that underpins the physical world. Now, of course, there's a lot to be talked about there. I'm not an expert physicist, nor am I at the level to be able to say with absolute certainty that once you get to the subatomic level, what's physical? It's all energy. So why isn't that spiritual? Energy is spiritual. And yet the scientists will say, well, I can measure it. And the Kabbalists will say, well, you can't measure it. And the scientists will say that here it is on my screen, that the light, the background energy of the universe is this dark matter that they're still trying to define. For a Kabbalist, that's the simplest thing in the world. The background matter of the universe is the halal panui, the empty space that God created before he created. That's the first thing he created. And so they can't even quantify gravity. But I'm getting a little bit off the track. But the idea here is that science, we're really treading softly in spaces where we need to be respectful of both disciplines. And we need to also understand that what we're learning comes from thousands of years ago, and the newest theories and physicists, etc., are developing ideas as they go. Okay, nonetheless, so we have vibrations in sound and vibrations in vision, and they reflect the different levels of your soul. So that now we can write this down. Chesed, the right arm on the tree of life, the color of Chesed is white. White, it represents purity, it represents kindness, it represents giving, it represents even right in war. What does it represent? Surrender. I'm tired of killing, you know. Hey. So white is the right arm, Chesed, on the tree of life. Of course, the left arm of the tree of life, what's called Gevura. Gevura is connected to the idea of might, of power, of strength. It connects back to warfare, where blood is spilled and blood is red. So the color for Gevura is red. So you have red and white between your two hands. These represent frequencies on the tree of life and energies, spiritual energies, but they're also represented in a rainbow. Of course, as you know, a rainbow is just white light that comes from the sun, and it's refracted by a rain cloud or a glass of water or the window here in my office. So you take, because all white light is really a combination of the spectrum of colors. So those colors, guess how many there are? 7. Guess how many spheroth there are from the shoulders down to the end of the tree? 7. Those 7, there's a reason for this. And why? How many notes are in a scale, a musical scale? 7. And how many days in the week? 7 days. It doesn't end. But the point is, we want to stay in our little realm here of energy frequencies. We understand that colors evoke energy. Colors impact perception and emotion. So that when you get into a red sports car, it's a different feeling than when you get into a white sports car. You might say, well, come on, it's a sports car. No, a red car is a symbol of a certain type of power, they've done studies about these things. The police know to look out for red cars. They know they're prone to speed because they have Gevura. They have that power. And of course, it represents a lot of things to a lot of people. But the understanding, though, that what we want to gain tonight is the sensitivity to be able to look at the world around you and to say, that's very interesting. My neighbor just bought a yellow car. What is yellow? Where's yellow on the tree of life? Oh, well, we learned on Lighthouse that yellow is connected to the sphere of Yesod, foundation, which is the idea of loyalty, the idea of constancy, the idea of being able to receive power from others and give it over to others. And that, of course, is the power of Yosef HaTzadik, who received all the world into Egypt to give them wheat and to save the world. So yellow it represents a certain power of Yesod, of foundation. Of course, it's also connected to sexuality and to the idea of pregnancy. So all those things are bound up in a color. So if you look at yellow, think about where you see yellow in nature. Yellow, I think, is most apparent in nature in flowers. Why is that? Well, because yellow, of course, is easy for the bees to spot when they want to come pollinate, when they want to get some nectar, So Hashem is really using colors to create reactions within nature itself, within all the other creatures. Why not us? And of course, we're part of that. So yellow is Yesod at the end of the tree of life. Next to, of course, the power after Yesod is Malchut, kingship. And kingship is this ability to receive from all the kingdom and then to create with it and to produce something new in the physical realm. That's why women are connected to kingship. It's really should be called queenship, of course, but we're not too gender obsessed over here in the Kabbalah. That's only a recent development. But kingship is this power to create something new in the world from all the resources that are given to you. And it could be out of your mouth, out of your hands, out of your feet, whatever you create with. Okay, and so kingship is, of course, the color blue. Blue, just like here, the lighthouse emblem, right? Kingship is the power of Torah, the power of the Torah Shebaal Peh. The rabbis say, who is the king? The master of the Talmud, because he has access to all the laws and the learning of the laws and how laws are derived from the Chumash itself. Okay, very good, Esther Ruth. We're going to work our way up here now. So I don't know why I jumped down to kingship, but that's very important because Yesod and Malchut become two major partsufim in the Kabbalah of the Arizal, what we call Za or Zer Anpin, the small face, and Nukba, the feminine, which is the Shaheena, the divine presence, the princess, not the queen, the princess, because it's the divine family. Okay, so let's go up the tree a little bit, as Esther Ruth mentions. We have above Yesod, we have Netzach and Hod. Those are the two thighs. The right thigh is Netzach, corresponds to Moshe Rabbeinu. The literal interpretation would be eternal victory. I like to think of it as the victory of the eternal, that God is always going to win. You know, who wins? The guy who has the most points at the end of the game? Yeah, but it's only one game. Who wins is the one who's, the Zohar says, who's standing with his weapons at the end of the war, and there's nobody else in the field standing. That's a pretty gruesome metaphor that the Zohar gives. But they say, what are your weapons of war? Of course, is prayer. So the teaching over there is that what is eternal victory? That you never stop praying. You never give up. It doesn't matter how bad it looks. It doesn't matter the life you've led. Everything can be changed with Hashem. And we have to believe that. Otherwise, why do we need a God that can't fix things? Why do we get a God that can't turn it around for us? No matter how bad it's been, no matter how much you've suffered. And so we need to believe in that. I do. And so Netzach is the power of the right thigh and the color generally associated with it. There are different versions, by the way, of this paradigm of colors. But what I'm giving over is from Rabbi Yosef Kikatilia and the Ramak. And they even have the contradictions in their shitot, in their ways. But nonetheless, you will see that Netzach is this idea of black. The black is a very stern color. It's a color actually that absorbs all other colors. It is a power that represents conformity. It represents authority. It represents other powers like very, how do I want to say this? It's the power that you use to push with your feet. Most people are right-handed. That means they're right-footed. So if you ever notice when people walk, they almost always start with the left foot forward and the right foot pushing because their right foot is stronger. So if you notice in a track runner, when he squats down into his, I forgot what those are called, the stocks that catch his feet when he's going to sprint down the runway, his right foot is back, his left foot is front, because we push with the right foot. So the idea of pushing is this idea of going forward. And that's the right thigh, which is this power of Netzach, the force that will propel you into the battle, of course, not into Vietnam, but into the battle with the Yetzer Hara, which is obviously the battle that we're all here to fight and win. And so then the left thigh is Hod, which means splendor. It's the power of Aaron HaKohen, the power to stand up to opposition, the power to resist temptation, the power to not give in to all the falsehood that's so easy to give into. The falsehood, of course, coming from inside ourselves and, of course, what's out there in the world. So that's Hod, and that color is actually I want to call it a pink. It's pink, There's another pink that appears up higher on the tree in Bina, but it's basically that combination of white and red, and so this color we see also in nature quite a bit, in flowers and in other parts of the body. And so a lot of people are pink in general, especially if they don't live in Miami Beach. So sorry about that, but this power of Hod, the left thigh, is considered the lowest on the tree because it's on the left side of the tree, and it is that which Aaron a Kohen, who represents this power, did not stand up to the big test of not making the golden calf for the Erev Rav when Moshe Rabbeinu was gone for 40 days on the mountain. So that was a huge test for him. And it's very interesting, there's a lot of tests that people have to stand up in life. And one of the big ones that it's coming from God is the test of patience. The story itself of the Arizal himself, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria, was that his father, Reb Shlomo Ashkenazi, was a Jew in the old city in Jerusalem. And he got, and one night, he was obviously very learned and very dedicated and very pious. And one night, the prophet Eliyahu visited him and told him, you're going to have a righteous son who's going to illuminate the world with his Torah, and I'm going to come to the bris milah, but you have to wait for me. Do not do the bris milah until I get there. Now, everybody relates already that Eliyahu Navi goes to brit milot for what he said to the Jewish people, what he said to God about the Jewish people at Har Horev, that they'd broken their covenant because they were all following the Baal and listening to Achav, who was the king of Israel at the time. Okay. So that the way the story goes, and you can visit the synagogue where this Brit Milah was. It's in the old city, on next to Chabad Street. It's up the hill over there, and basically, Eliyahu Hanavi didn't show up, and everybody's waiting, and they want to go to work, and they got stuff to do, and they're waiting, and they don't understand why the Rav is not doing the Bris Milah for his son, and he's holding, and he's waiting, and he's stalling in every which way. And it became almost, well, I don't want to say a rebellion, but people got up to leave, and they just were incensed that their time was being wasted waiting when no one. And you see, part of the deal over here in this story is that if Eliyahu Navi promises to come, you can't tell people that. First of all, they'll think you're crazy, and second of all, there's an intimacy in these spiritual matters where a person can't just say everything that he knows or has heard. And so nonetheless, the way the story goes is many people left, and Rab Shlomo was holding strong. And finally, Eliyahu Navi, the way the story goes, he came into the Beit Knesset. It's a Beit Knesset where they were doing the Brit. He came into the Beit Knesset, took the knife, and did the Bris Milah himself on the Arizal. So you see, the idea of waiting here was exactly what the Jewish people had to do when Moses went up to get the Torah. And the waiting, that King David had to wait before he could take Bathsheba as his wife. He already had several wives. Why did he have to take her right away? Et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot of discussion about that. But waiting is really one of the prime spiritual tests. I know in yeshiva, you're waiting for your paycheck. You're waiting for the bills to come in. And there's always this temptation to borrow more money. And at a certain point, you just, you say, this is not what I'm here for. If I can't rely on God to keep me out of debt, then where's my faith? Anyways, that's all personal stuff. But the point here is that the power of waiting, of patience, is in Hod, the left thigh. And we go up to Tiferet, the heart. Tiferet is represented by some paradigms as yellow and purple, but the tradition we have here from Rav Gikatele, who was the author of Shari Ora, who was a Makubal about 300 years before the Rambam, he holds that it was green. The green is the color of the heart, the balance between the right and the left. And the Tiferet, of course, represents truth and balance. And you see that the whole earth, or the earth, is called the green, the green planet. And it's like Okay, and it's green because of vegetation, not because of methane gas like they have on Venus or other gases and other planets. But so Tiferet is the idea of balance, of beauty, of aesthetics, of mercy. That mercy is really is not all pure kindness. Mercy is when you understand the judgment and yet you override the judgment with kindness. So that the right arm and the left arm unify in the heart and they become a expression of the balance where really human beings become godlike when they can express mercy. If someone owes you money and you need that money and yet they're struggling too, it's your mercy to extend time to them. That is a divine thing. You can demand it, it says on the contract you're supposed to pay. You didn't pay. But that's the din. That's the side of Gevurah, the side of red. Right? And then the side of Chesed is saying, no, just give him the money, don't worry about it. And no, but that's also difficult because you become, you can get taken advantage of very easily and etc. And, it's not like everybody has billions of dollars around just alone. So we need a balance between the two. And that's really where Tiferet is the beauty of combining strength and kindness and love to create mercy. Okay, so that's reflected in the color green. So what is all this doing for us in meditation, especially since that's our focus here? Well, the idea of meditation in color is very simple, actually. By focusing intensely on a color, you evoke the spiritual energy behind the color. Okay, so that if let's say you feel weak and you need strength. Strength is coming from Gevurah. So the simple advice here would be to meditate on something red. So what we've done, and what the Rav is telling us, the Ramak is telling us, is that you take one of God's names and you color it red in your mind's eye, so that you're drawing this power through the filter of God's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, but because you're picturing it with red, you're actually pulling down the power of Gevurah through that filter. Now, this might sound like it's high above us and it's not so easy to do, but actually we probably do it more often than you think. When you go to the park and you just gaze at a tree, what's happening? You're gazing on the color green. And what happens? A beautiful green tree opens your heart. Well, where is green coming from? Tiferet, the heart. Okay? And, when you gaze at the blue heavens and you see the awesomeness of creation and you feel the eternalness of time and the endlessness of things, you're connecting to God's kingship. That's blue. Kingship is blue. And so it's actually something we do naturally, but we're not taught to meditate this way. Now, if you have the ability to see any of God's names, even the first one of the ones we've used is Yud K, just Yud and the Yud and the letter Hey, you can color them in your mind's eye if you're able to. Not everybody is. And how do you do that? Well, you just see the name, then you think blue. And you can color the letter. Now, there are deeper levels that I go into on one-on-one teaching of these subjects, because this is really getting into the depth of what's called Mericava Meditation, which is something that the rabbis warn us only to learn one-on-one. And so I do that with people on a private basis, but that's where we actually take a person's experience and open it up, and then I'm able to find out where a person is really holding in their individual capacity for this type of meditation. Because we are, as we said earlier, we are trying to climb a ladder here. Okay. But you should know that even if you're sitting in the park, you can gaze on something and actually extract that power from it. And you probably did it as a child when you stared at a flower or whatever physical thing that illuminated you at any given time. I remember staring at Niagara Falls, right? The white water just tumbling, this immense power, but it's the color white. So the color white, of course, is kindness. So, and the color, by the way, water itself activates the water bile in the body. What does that mean? Well, you have four biles, what are called biles in English. They're basically the four liquid systems in the body: the green, the red, the white, and the black. Right? The black bile is for the liver. The red bile is for the the black bile is for the gallbladder. The red bile is for the liver. The white bile is for the spleen, and the green. No, the white is for the lungs, and the green is for the spleen. Okay, well, why is that important? Because the way that God has built us is we are connected with these forces in creation, that these spheroid that we've been talking about are also connected to our different organs. So their colors correspond, of course, to their biochemistry. But on a spiritual level, they're drawing from these different spheroid, if you will. Okay, so you see that a person has liver problems, his body is shifted, imbalance, has given an imbalance according to that, and so too people with other different shifts. So one shift is to have a dry system. Some people are chronically under dehydrated, right? So when you're dehydrated, it causes a lot of other problems. And the way the Rav writes here is that a person can meditate on water and actually excite that power in his body to bring up water. Now, you think that sounds crazy? Well, no, it's not. Just walk into the bathroom and turn on the faucet, and you'll see what'll happen to your body. Anybody knows that, right? A long time ago, gosh, maybe 40 years ago, I was a bartender in college. That's how I got through college, right? And I would turn on the water, and then the old guys at the bar would start complaining that I made them need to go to the bathroom. A little humor, it's good for us, right? But literally, this is because our bodies are sensitive to the world around us, but we haven't been taught to connect the dots, to connect the sensitivities to water, to fire, to air, to earth. Now, the Kabbalah teaches us that. Intuitively, you'll learn that if you live in Eretz Israel, the difference between the city of Jerusalem, which is the city of fire, and Tzfat, the city of air, and Tiberia, the city of water, and Hebron, the city of earth. These powers are active in the personalities of the people. You can see it literally in the way people act when they're in each city. And it's quite amazing if you pay attention. Okay. Let's see. Shirley writes, is there a difference between blue and turquoise? I've been attracted to turquoise lately. Turquoise is a greenish blue, right? And of course, there's different colors of turquoise. They're not all one shade. Then, of course, there's the fake turquoise that you get. You get at Tijuana. I don't know, but you have to look. It depends on the turquoise, but it's still connected to blue for sure. Turquoise is one of the important gemstones, I believe, in some of the ancient Mayan or Incan tribes. So, along with, of course, of gold. But all right, so that just gives us a framework to work in. We're going to go forward with this. And another interesting question is, what is a rainbow? Well, we mentioned it earlier. It's the white light that comes off the sun and comes to our planet, and it goes through a prism, and we see the spectrum. Well, each of these colors is a different vibration, right? It's ultraviolet until infrared. So one is extremely fast, and it goes down through all the colors to the slowest frequency of colors. So each of these frequencies, you see the speed of the movement of the molecules is actually impacting with us on a real way. And that's why you'll have different emotions when you see different colors. That's why, if you walk into a restaurant, why do they have the lights low? If they want to set an atmosphere. And if it's one of these old time steak places, I remember they used to put on the dark blue lights, right? And if you walk into, I remember walking to I worked actually in a Mexican restaurant. The colors were red and yellow, and so on and so forth, because they're evoking a mood, and the mood is happening inside us. So again, we want to pay attention to our environment. That's part of the gifts of meditation, is that it makes us more sensitive to life around us as we live it. Now, what's very interesting is the rainbow, which in Hebrew is called a keshet. It literally means a bow, like a bow and arrow is called a keshet v'chetz, right? The bow is also a symbol for God's mercy when there is judgment in the world. We see this, the Torah mentions the rainbow when Noah comes out of the ark after a year of flooding and cataclysm and, the splitting of the continents. Who knows what else happened over there? There's a lot of different theories amongst archaeologists and astrophysicists about what really happened before the flood, at the time of the flood. So it's very interesting things you can find on YouTube about this. A lot of it works with the Torah narrative. Okay, but the point here is that the rainbow, which is actually the white light of the sun broken into its different speed levels, its different frequencies, is the symbol of God's having mercy on us when there's judgment. And this is a very interesting thing, because it's also in the Zohar, it's also called, it's a metaphor for the sexual organ. Okay? And so that doesn't need much description. But I think we understand here that the idea is that God, when we have a covenant with God, the first thing that we have to look at is our relationship to sexuality, because that's where we emote the most power. The power to give life, to create life, is the most divine thing that human beings can do. When a man and woman have a child, they are becoming godlike, hopefully. And so that power has to be extremely circumscribed. Sorry, that sounds like circumcised, right? But it's true. The whole idea is to focus the power in a very specific time and place and intention. And so the rainbow, when you see it, it's actually God saying, I remember my covenant with you. I should destroy the world again, but I'm not going to. And, you see that from the time of Noah to Abraham, it says, the Mishnah says in Mericava that all the generations sinned again. Can you imagine, after all that cataclysmic trauma, that the world went back to sinning until Nimrod was kind of controlling the world. And he did a lot of evil things. The Midrash says that Nimrod stole the original coat that was given by God to Adam. And so you wear this coat and animals come down, you don't have to hunt anymore. They come to you. That's the tradition, okay, that we have. The point, though, is that this rainbow, this covenant, right, is a collection of lights that's really one color. It's white, but it's many colors. But wait a minute, it's white. No, it's many colors. So the Zohar says that this is a perfect metaphor for the divine presence, the Shaheena herself. The Shaheena is like the rainbow. Why? Because the Shaheena is hidden. You cannot actually see sunlight. What you see is what sunlight illuminates. In other words, if you're in an empty space, if you're in the middle of space, you won't see sunlight. You'll see the sun burning off in a distance in space. But until you have something for the light to reflect off of, you can't see it. It's invisible. That's a metaphor for the divine presence. It's invisible. However, if you take something physical and it's clear glass or water, etc., and it refracts the light, suddenly the invisible becomes visible. And that's where we really find ourselves in our relationship with God, because you see that the Shaheena is not so far away. It's just hidden in reality. And our job is to bring out, that little magnifying glass that we used to use as kids, and hold it up to the sun so that you can see the refraction of the light. And of course, what do we see? We see these 7 colors that correspond to the 7 sphirot that we've been just learning about. And these, of course, are emotive. Each color has its own emotive power. When you see blue lights, what do you think of? You don't think of the ice cream man. You think of John Law, right? As they used to say in the, I guess that was probably the 50s. I'm dating myself, right? When you see green, you think of nature, the green movement, right? So all these things are happening inside and outside, and all we have to do is create alignment in our mind, right? So let's say you want to buy your spouse or your beloved a present. You want to figure out what's their favorite color if you're going to buy them a dress or a tie or whatever it might be. You want to buy their favorite color, right? Make them happy. So that's an interesting thing that we're going to work with in a few minutes when we go to meditate. How are we doing on time? Well, we have time. Time exists, right? But not really. It's another one of those things that's invisible but real. Okay. So the rainbow is this perfect metaphor for the Shaheena because it's hidden and revealed, and it has all these lights from the spectrum. And when we meditate on a color, we're drawing out the power. The color is not the power. Do not make this mistake. Color is physical. The power is spiritual. But the color gives us it's like that prism again. The color is the thing you meditate on to extract the power from it. So when you're not meditating on white because you want love. Rather, you're meditating on white because there's love behind that color. Okay, it's a subtlety that maybe it's lost on us, but we have to practice it. And if you practice it, you'll see what I mean. Now, this thing about the colors, I want to just expand it a tiny bit. It's also true in our clothes. See, in the Kabbalah, that's why we wear white on Shabbat, because we want to reflect pure kindness, pure mercy, and loving kindness. During the week, well, it depends on who you are. What, as a rabbi, I'm expected to dress a certain way when I go to yeshiva. I dress a certain way when I work in the garden, but there still are these uniforms. Those uniforms have colors. If I walk into yeshiva and I'm not wearing a suit or wearing black and white or blue and dark blue and white, it catches an eye. People are like, what's with Shira? He doesn't, this is what we wear. It's our uniform. It's the same thing when you go to IBM or any other job, you have a uniform. Those uniforms reflect powers. That's why policemen, what's the universal color for policemen? Dark blue or black. Because both of those colors are stern, they're authoritative, they're connected to Malchut, kingship. And the government, of course, is, that's who they are, whether we like it or not. You can call them the government, the Democrats, the Republicans, or the Whigs, or the Whips, or the Willows, but they're the power. And that's why they choose those colors. And it's the same thing when you look at police cars. Okay? It's representing authoritative expression. Now, so that's true with our clothes. It's true. And when you paint a house, look at some houses. There used to be, when I lived in LA, there was a black house. Maybe some of you knew it. It was near, what's it called over there? Off of Beverly Boulevard. And there was this house that was all black. I mean, literally. And it was just spooky. You couldn't drive by without looking at it and wondering what's going on. Well, why did they paint the house black? Well, actually, there was a story that was written by an author from LA I don't know if his story was based on it or a fictionalization, but he claimed that 2 sisters lived there and they all wore black and white, and the house inside was also black and white. So what do we say when we're thinking about black and white people? We're talking about very rigid thinking, right? Very, very dogmatic, yes or no, my way or the highway type of thinking. That's what black and white represent when they're presented together. And so even when you color a room, they painted a jail pink, and all the prisoners became more violent because pink is from the left side of the tree, which is connected to red, which is, of course, Gevurah. So nowadays, you'll see that you don't see any prison painted pink. They'll usually paint them pale gray or green, some kind of pale green, because that's more settling to people, and so on. So all of this is it's probably not new to a lot of you, but when you see it, how the map of the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life works, it actually, it gives us, I don't know, it gives me a sense of centeredness, that this wisdom that we're trying to obtain here is really extremely solid and built on nature itself. People tend to think of Kabbalah as separate from nature. No, it is not at all separate. It is the spiritual expression of nature. Okay. We wear white on Shabbat. White during the week, we wear black and white. But which color should we wear during weekdays? Well, again, that that's really depends on you and what your job is and what you feel good. And people wear black and white because they're extremely religious, or they want to identify with a group or identify with a rabbi. There's a lot of different reasons. What you should wear is what is respectful and makes you feel good, and what makes you feel happy and proud of who you are. And I see many people, they dress very poorly and they don't look particularly proud. They look sloppy, they look slovenly, and it's reflected in their thought as well. When people wear wild colors, usually they're trying to get attention. And so that's okay. People need attention. Attention is good for people. Too much is not good. The wrong kind is not good. Acting out is not a way to get attention. But, I wore, I once, 30 years ago, I wore a robe on the streets of Sfat. It was Shabbat. And I had this beautiful Moroccan kaftan, 100% silk, black and silver. And a rabbi said to me, Avraham, why are you wearing this robe in public? It's a wonderful robe. It's comfortable. It's airy. I get to feel like a sheikh, I get a little breeze instead of wearing these tight European clothes. And he says, but Avraham, you don't understand. When people see you in that, they're afraid of you. They don't want to get near you. They don't want to get close to you. That's the opposite of what you want to do as a person of Torah and a person of psychology, a person who wants to help people. You want to get close to people. You want to get bonded. And if people dress in a wacky way, you push them away. So I took that to heart, and I only wear my robe around the house, or on Purim or on Shabbat morning when, if you come over sometime, you're all welcome. Maybe we'll see. But why do the Arabs, they can wear robes that we can't? Why? Because they're crazy and we're not? I don't think so. But regardless, if you live in the Middle East long enough, you'll know what I mean. If you live in Alaska, I don't think you want to wear a robe. Okay. So I hear your question, May, but it's really an individual choice. And it's part of your community too. If you're a religious woman living in a community, then there's a dress code. That's just a given. But it doesn't mean it's supposed to be like, chain you down. Okay, so what else? Let's see what we got here. Oh, another area, you see the colors is in the Hoshin, the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol, he'd wear when he was in service in the Beit HaMikdash, right? You have the breastplate, which has the 12 gemstones, which represent the 12 tribes. Each one was a different color. So each color also represented not only the tribe, but part of the personality style of each tribe, because each tribe had a different personality. Yaakov Avinu had 12 sons, and each one was a different individual. Think of them like states. A person from Georgia is not like a person from New York, and neither of them are like a person from California, nor Texas, nor Oregon. So, it's kind of, God created the paradigm of nation building through Jacob and his sons. And that's the 12 sons, and each has its own gemstone, which has its own color, which has its own vibration, which is connected to its own mission in the health and the wealth of the nation. Because each tribe had a different job. Some tribes were teachers, some tribes were workmen, some tribes were businessmen, some tribes were farmers, stockyard men. Each tribe was different. And that's also reflected in the Hoshen and the colors over there. We're not going to go through that now, but it's easy to look up online. You can find it all right there. Okay, so we've reached kind of the end of the learning component of this. We're going to do a little meditation and see how that goes, and then we'll talk about it, okay? So let's take a couple-minute break for anything that we needed to do, and we'll carry on. Oh. Okay. All right. So as we have practiced, well, 7 times already together on the Lighthouse, let's get comfortable. Comfortable with ourselves, in the right chair, the right posture. Want our back straight, not military straight, just straight, comfortable, and our arms resting easily, our hands free, our feet flat on the floor if we can, separated. Remember, we are a conduit. We are an electric switch between heaven and earth. We close our eyes, automatically notice that you feel more peace just by closing your eyes. That's because part of meditation is closing down outside sources of information. Begin breathing through your nose. Inhale easily. Pause at the top. And exhale. Exhale as deeply as you can without discomfort. As you inhale, feel gratitude just to be able to breathe. May our efforts also give merit to all those people in the world now that are having a real hard time breathing. Notice how each breath, when you exhale, you feel like you're sinking a little bit, sinking into yourself, into your deeper self, sinking into your essence. Breathing deeply. So as you breathe, notice what's happening before your eyes that are closed. Do you see anything? Is there a white screen? Is there a boundary to the white screen? If there isn't, try to draw one. A simple rectangle that is white. Draw that white rectangle in your mind's eye. Continue breathing. This is your inner theater. Maybe it's small. Maybe it feels crowded. Maybe it's not stable. That's okay. That's where we are. We have to be where we are. Spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally. And where we are is exactly where we need to be. If you judge yourself, note it, let it go. If you're thrilled with yourself, note that too. Let it go. Meditation is not about us. It is about connecting to something much greater. The Jewish meditation is the path of the prophets handed down to us. So let's begin to inhale. And as we inhale, imagine the letter Yud appearing on your screen. Your screen is white. As you draw air into your mind and your body, imagine this letter Yud appearing on the screen. What color is your letter? Did you notice that it has a color? Try to color that Yud, the color of your choice, perhaps based on what we learned, which is perhaps your favorite color. See the Yud is blue or green or red or white, any color you choose. Let that color stand in your mind's eye. Let it vibrate its frequency. And after the Yud, let's inhale to us a Hey. A Hey, which of course is a Daled with a foot out front. And that foot is a Yud turned upside down. Just that might help you. So now we have Yud and Hey. Bring those letters together in your mind. Yud and Hey. Whatever color they might be. If you don't like the color, change it. If you do, stay focused on it. Now we're going to add a vowel. The Vowel Commands, which is a bar with a dot beneath it, connected to the bar. That is the aw sound, like awesome, We're going to put this vowel under the yud so that we're going to pronounce in our breath, ya, ya. What color do you see as you say this two-lettered name? Ya, ya. You are, as you say the name, ya, you are vibrating a part of the tree of life. You're pulling on a branch. That branch is wisdom. Wisdom is brilliant silver, white. Ya, ya. Now you can hold these letters out for a long breath. It can be very powerful. Or you can say them in a short breath, depending on your ability. The main thing is to see the letter, experience its vibration. Ya. Ya. Notice your voice, the tenor, the pitch. Notice the voice emerging from your mouth. Ya. You are releasing one of God's names into the world. It's an awesome thing. You're creating a force field of wisdom around you. Ya. This force field of wisdom will stay with you as long as you are wise. And wisdom is learning how to hide wisdom. The world doesn't know, nor does the world need to know if you're wise. We need to know that God is wise, and He gives His wisdom to the wise. But it is a hidden gift. The gift of humility as well. Now this name, Yud-Hey, you can see it in your mind's eye. But you can also place it on your body, on your skull, the top of your head. On your right brain. On your left brain. In the middle of your forehead. Each place carries a different power. So we move to the right arm. The left arm. See the colors. The red, Yah, for Gevurah, the left arm. The white, Yud K, Yud A of the right arm. Now see Yud Hey as green at the heart. Yeah. Yeah. Now you can move to your right thigh. See the Yud and the Hey in brilliant shining black, powerful black. Black as the star, as the heavens, shining black. Yeah. Perhaps the letters don't listen to you. They don't appear. They don't take color. It's okay. That's fine. We have no judgment of our work. Not in the midst of the work. Now, I want to see Yud and Hey in a brilliant pink. Imagine the letter Yud and Hey, the vowel commands below the Yud, in pink. Perhaps that's too hard. Well, think of something pink and then apply the color to the letters. Yeah. You see that it works. You can see pink letters. Yeah. Now, the power of Yesod, yellow, the tinge of purple. Yeah. The power of Yesod, the power of loyalty, of chastity. Yeah. And finally, we've reached kingship, Malchut. We see Yud Hey is brilliant blue, the blue of the sea, the blue of the sky. Yeah. Yeah. Allow the word to vibrate throughout your body. Allow the word to synchronize your body to one vibration, to become Yah, the channel of wisdom. It is so peaceful to be with you, to meditate together. Thank the Lord, thank God for this time. Thank God for His Torah, for His teachers, for His servants, for this platform, for the hope of the future is in the Torah. Okay, We can slowly return. Return to our more, I don't want to call it everyday consciousness, but rather our communication consciousness. You know, sometimes we just don't want to stop meditating, and that's a good thing. And you shouldn't stop if you want to continue. Okay. So I do need to stop, though. I don't want to fall asleep on air. But if you have any questions, comments, insights, I'd be happy to answer them now. This meditation is designed also to exercise the mind's abilities, the projection of names, projection of vowels, projection of colors, and also placing them upon our bodies. These are all disciplines of the mind that we can all do when we practice. Like every good thing, you must practice. If you're a person who prays, then you can use these techniques in your davening. That'll give you plenty of practice. Excuse me. Okay. Let's see what we have here. Esther Ruth writes, Rabbi, can we do Yud K Vav K? Or is it important to do Yah for now? Well, you can do Yud K Vav K on your own. I was introducing the Yud K because it's useful, it represents wisdom, and it's simpler, it's easier for some people. But if you're already at the level you can do Yud K Vav K, that's fine. It's good. Cindy wants to ask a comment. Please, Cindy. Mary writes, Moy writes, why do we meditate with the last two letters only? Is there a specific reason? Well, actually, these are the first two letters of the transcendental name. But it's a name unto itself. We have to understand each name is a particular channel of power in the soul, and Yud K represents wisdom, the right brain. So it's not that it's less than, it's simply different, a different window of power. Okay? When we meditate on Yud K and Vav K, we're using a more integrated name of God. Okay. I hope that answers your question, Moy. I have a question about from the audience. What does it mean when you see the purple color while doing his Bodhidut? Okay. Well, you know, that question would probably require more questions from me about what you were doing in your Bodhidut at the time. But anytime a color pops up in your davening or in your meditation or in your Bodhidut, that means you're accessing something to that power. Now, purple is part of Yesod. It's listed sometimes as a counterpart to yellow. I focused on yellow tonight because, again, I'm trying to simplify a bit. But purple is part of that. Purple is actually a combination of yellow and red. So, but it is connected to Yesod, foundation, bris, covenant, etc. And of course, sexual purity. All right. Cindy, yeah, I think that we can meditate. I think we should we should meditate when davening, because meditation prepares us for truer, deeper speech. In other words, we're going into the palace of the king. Now, what state of mind do you want to appear before the king? It's not going to the mall. You're not going to visit your friends at Starbucks. Well, I guess you can't do that anymore, at least not around here. No, but really, when we're going into the palace of the king, you want to be in a very precise, deep, focused state of mind. And so meditation is a wonderful tool before you pray, because it deepens your experience, and your prayer will take off at a much higher level. And it will break through firmaments, which is essentially what we have to do here. To reach heaven, we have to get through all the schmutz between heaven and earth. There's a bit up there. Psychic discord, if you will, that we need to break through. So by meditating first, you actually will propel your prayer much further. And then when you get into the prayer, there are words that'll shine out to you, or jump off the page, or make your heart open. But that means that you're accessing that power in that word. And each time it's different, and it can be multiple times in one davening. It really depends on a person's level. But pay attention. That's the main thing here, is that if suddenly this particular word jumps out at you and it opens your heart, that means there's something between your soul and that concept or that power of God at that moment. And I've seen it so many times. It's written about directly in Rabbi Nachman's book, and also in by Rabbi Chaim Vital, about this idea of the letters themselves moving or dancing or jumping, because they're receiving life force as a result of your davening them and meditating on them, or because you've done some other good deed and God wants to shine to you in this way. But it's always very positive. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Cindy. You should have good luck with your davening and meditating together. Remember, the thing that's missing usually from davening is the deep breathing, and that's hard, but it's not really. You just incorporate it. What I have to do is just join the minyan and then do my thing. If I try to keep up with the minyan, I'm like one of these guys in traffic, always changing lanes, trying to keep up with the folks. That's not why I daven. I try to daven because there's other things that need to be done in the world. So, it's important to daven a minyan. The Jewish people that you're with give you spiritual power. Their soul feeds into your soul. Your soul feeds into theirs. We are little streams, like rivulets in the sea, in the Gulf, in the Delta, all these little streams of water that come together when we pray. So we're getting power from the minyan. But let's say you can't. Okay, you can't. But it doesn't mean you don't have to meditate. I would just recommend hiding it as much as you can, because you don't want to attract attention when you're attempting high-level practice. This is high-level practice. You want to be hidden. That's part of the big wisdom. You can accomplish much more when you're hidden than when people know you. Of course, some of us, we have to appear on Facebook and Lighthouse and YouTube and all the platforms, because that's part of our job. Okay. Well, it's getting on to what is about 2:20 here in the Holy Land, and I really bless you all to have a great Shabbat, a wonderful Sukkot. Shabbat and Sukkot together is a special thing. I'll be doing a little Facebook tomorrow. You guys can all friend me on Facebook about Shabbat Sukkot. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next week, all things being equal, of course, and that the Lighthouse has been wonderful and generous and helping to bring this all about. And look forward to seeing you again. So God bless you all. May you all help support the Lighthouse. And Michael Ben Melech, Reb Michael, is really Mesirat Nefesh for this program. So Chag Sameach to everyone. and we will see you soon. Shabbat Shalom.